Jax's revenge domain.
I can still hear the sound of that report hitting my desk, not the paper itself, but the way it made my coffee mug rattle against the metal surface. 24 years working this factory floor, and I'd never seen anything land with that kind of authority. Brad Stevens didn't knock, didn't say good morning, just walked into my office at 7:15 a.m. and dropped that thing like he was dealing cards. The name's Brock Hensley, by the way. I'm 47, been supervising operations at Oakwood Manufacturing since most of these new corporate types were still figuring out which end of a wrench to hold. That Tuesday morning, I was doing what I always do at 7 a.m., checking equipment logs and adjusting my safety glasses while I reviewed the night shift reports. The third assembly line had been running hot again, normal stuff. Steven stood there in his pressed khakis and company polo, scrolling through his phone like I wasn't worth making eye contact with. His shoes were too clean, the kind that had never seen a factory floor before 6 weeks ago when corporate brought him in. Congratulations, Hensley. You made the cut. The cut, like we were talking about a golf tournament instead of people's livelihoods. I picked up the report. 3 pages of names highlighted in yellow. Good people, experienced people, Jimmy Torres, who'd been running maintenance for 18 years and could diagnose a bearing problem by sound alone. Roy Palmer from Quality Control, the guy who caught that batch defect that would have cost us the GM contract. Nancy Brooks, our safety coordinator, widow with 2 kids still in high school. Team reduction 30% effective immediately, Steven said, still not looking up from his phone. I need you to absorb Jimmy's maintenance schedule, take over Roy's quality metrics, and handle Nancy's safety reporting, streamlining operations. I adjusted my safety glasses, always did that when the tolerances were getting out of spec. That's 3 full-time positions you're talking about, and you should feel fortunate. Half the supervisors would jump at this opportunity. He finally looked at me then with that expression management consultants get when they think they're explaining quantum physics to a 5-year-old. Either you handle the transition or join them. Your choice. Need an answer by end of shift. Then he walked out, didn't even shut the door behind him. Let me tell you about Brad Stevens. He'd been at Oakwood for 6 weeks, brought in by corporate after they bought us out from the Henley family. Efficiency expert, they called him, had an MBA from some school I'd never heard of and talked about optimization like it was religion. Never spent a day on a production floor before this assignment. But he knew all about lean manufacturing and cost reduction strategies. The problem wasn't the business reality. I understood that. New ownership meant new pressures. Profit margins needed improvement. But asking one person to do 3 jobs wasn't efficiency. That was just bad math with safety risks attached. I sat there staring at those highlighted names, listening to the familiar sounds of the floor starting up for day shift. Line 2 had that slight vibration in the conveyor motor that meant the bearings were due for replacement. You don't hear that kind of thing from a spreadsheet. The fluorescent light above my desk was flickering again. Had been for 2 weeks in the old days. Jimmy would have had that fixed the same day I mentioned it. Now Jimmy's name was highlighted in yellow, and Stevens thought some contractor could handle our maintenance needs. Around 10 a.m., Earl Watson knocked on my doorframe. Earl's been shop steward for 12 years, and before that, he was Army logistics, same as me. We served together in the Gulf before we both ended up here. He took one look at my face and shut the door behind him. Heard about the cuts, he said, settling into the chair across from my desk. I handed him the list. Watched his jaw tighten as he read through the names. 30% of our experienced crew. Stevens wants me to pick up the slack. Can't be done safely. Earl said without hesitation, maintenance alone is a full-time job. Add quality control and safety reporting? He shook his head. Recipe for someone getting hurt. That's when it hit me. The real problem wasn't the workload. It was what happened when corners got cut to meet impossible deadlines. I'd seen it before 12 years ago, when corporate pushed us to skip a scheduled maintenance cycle. Young apprentice named Danny Walsh ended up with a crushed hand when a press guard failed. Guard that should have been inspected the week before. I adjusted my safety glasses again. Stevens needs an answer by 3 o'clock. What are you thinking? I'm thinking 24 years of experience should count for something, and I'm thinking these people deserve better than being treated like line items on a balance sheet. Earl leaned forward. Union's been expecting this. Corporate's been making the same moves at their other plants. What do you need? Information, and a weekend to make some calls. By lunch, word had spread through the plant. You can't keep news like that quiet in a place where everybody's worked together for years. People were walking around like someone had died. The normal chatter at the break tables had gone silent. Instead of talking about weekend plans or complaining about the Cardinals pitching, workers were huddled in small groups, voices low, eyes worried. Jimmy Torres came by my office around 1 p.m., still wearing his maintenance coveralls, grease stains on the sleeves that told stories about every piece of equipment he'd kept running. His toolbox sat outside my door like he wasn't sure he'd be needing it much longer. Heard I'm getting the boot, he said. Nothing's final yet. Come on, Brock. My name's on that list in yellow highlighter. He sat down, looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with the work. 18 years I've been here. Know every machine on this floor. But Steven says we can outsource maintenance to some contractor service. Contractor's not going to know that line 3 runs hot when the ambient temperature hits 85 degrees, or that the hydraulic pump on press 7 needs the pressure set 3 psi higher than spec because of metal fatigue in the housing. Try explaining that to an MBA who's never held a wrench. Jimmy was right, and we both knew it. These machines weren't just equipment, they were like old trucks you've been driving for decades. You know exactly how much play is normal in the steering wheel, which noises mean trouble, and which ones are just character. You can feel when something's off before the gauges show it. What about your pension, I asked. That's the real kick in the teeth. 18 years, and I'm 2 years short of full vesting. They time this right, and I lose 40% of what I've got coming. He rubbed his face with hands that were permanently stained from hydraulic fluid and cutting oil. Wife's been talking about moving closer to her sister in Tennessee. Maybe it's time. After Jimmy left, I spent the afternoon walking the floor like I always did. But this time I was seeing it different, not just as production lines and workstations, but as a system that took decades to fine-tune. Every adjustment, every workaround, every piece of knowledge that kept things running smooth. Roy Palmer was at his quality station, running parts through the coordinate measuring machine with the kind of precision that came from years of practice. Roy had caught more defects than anyone else in the plant, saved us from shipping bad parts to customers who'd remember that kind of mistake forever. Heard about the list, he said without looking up from the CMM display. You did good work today. Caught that dimension variance on the bracket assemblies. Won't matter much longer. Roy finally looked at me, and I could see the resignation in his eyes. Steven says they're going to statistical sampling instead of 100% inspection. Cut the quality budget in half. Statistical sampling works when your processes are stable and your operators are experienced. Yeah, well, experience doesn't show up on a spreadsheet. Nancy Brooks was in her cubicle, typing up incident reports from the weekend. Nancy kept track of every near miss, every safety concern, every piece of equipment that needed attention before it became a problem. She was the reason we'd gone 8 months without a reportable injury. Nancy, you got a minute? She looked up from her computer, and I could tell she'd been crying earlier. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and she kept dabbing at them with a tissue. Already started updating my resume, she said. Figured I'd get a head start. Kids doing okay? Sarah's a junior now, Tommy's a freshman. Both honor roll students. She managed a weak smile. College isn't getting any cheaper. They're lucky to have you. Not for much longer, apparently. Steven says safety coordination can be handled by the supervisors as an additional duty. Says it's more efficient to integrate safety into daily operations instead of having a dedicated position. I adjusted my safety glasses again. Safety isn't an additional duty. It's the most important duty. Try convincing corporate of that. At 2:45, I knocked on Steven's office door. He was on a conference call, but waved me in anyway, holding up one finger like I should wait, while he finished discussing quarterly projections with people who'd never seen our facility. When he hung up, he didn't even look at me. So what's it going to be, Hensley? I need the weekend to figure out how to make this work safely. He sighed like I was asking for a personal favor. Fine, but I want a detailed transition plan on my desk Monday morning, 8 a.m. sharp. And Hensley, he looked at me for the first time all day. Don't make me regret giving you the extra time. These people are counting on you to step up. I walked out of there knowing exactly what I was going to do, just not the way he expected. That Friday night, I sat in Earl's kitchen, while his wife Linda made coffee, and we spread papers across the table like we were planning a military operation, which in a way we were. Earl had called in favors from shop stewards at plants across the state, and the picture wasn't pretty. Got calls back from 3 facilities, Earl said, pulling out his notebook. Steelmont Industries is hiring supervisors. Riverside Manufacturing needs experienced maintenance, and that new plant in Jefferson is looking for quality control. All union shops, and all paying 15% to 20% more than Oakwood. What about benefits? Better health coverage, pension plans that actually vest after 5 years instead of 20, and they're not talking about layoffs every quarter. I leaned back in my chair, adjusting my safety glasses even though I wasn't wearing them. Habit, Stevens wants a transition plan Monday morning. What kind of plan you thinking? The kind that shows him what happens when you don't respect experience. Saturday morning, I drove out to Steelmont Industries and met with their plant manager, Pete Morrison. Pete had been in manufacturing for 30 years, understood the value of experienced workers. His facility was newer than ours, cleaner, but you could tell it was run by people who knew the business. Heard you might be looking for good people, Pete said over coffee in his office. Might be looking for work myself, depending on how things shake out. Brock, I've known your reputation for years. Half the quality guys in the state learned their trade from people you trained. He leaned forward. What's the situation at Oakwood? I told him about the cuts, about Stevens, about the impossible workload they expected me to take on. Pete listened without interrupting, nodding occasionally like he'd heard this story before. Corporate efficiency experts, he said when I finished. Had one here 3 years ago. Lasted 6 months before the board figured out he was costing us more money than he was saving. Different story when the board's the one demanding the cuts. True enough. What kind of timeline are we talking about? Stevens wants my answer Monday morning. If I say no, I'm out with the rest of them. And if you say yes, then I'm responsible for maintaining production with half the crew. I need to do it safely. Pete was quiet for a long moment, looking out at his production floor through the office window. I can offer you plant supervisor position, 20% bump from what you're making now, full benefits, pension that vests after 5 years. Union shop, so your people would be protected. What about the others? Jimmy, Roy, Nancy, the rest of the crew getting cut. Bring them all. I've got openings across the board, been trying to fill maintenance and quality positions for months with people who actually know what they're doing. Sunday evening, I had my answer. Not just for Stevens, but for my whole crew. I spent the day making phone calls, checking references, confirming start dates. By dinner time, I had job offers lined up for every single person on Stevens' list. Earl came by the house around 7 p.m. with a bottle of beer and a grim smile. Union meeting tomorrow at 6 a.m. before first shift. Word's gotten around about Steelmont. How many people know? 15, maybe 20. The ones with the most seniority, the most to lose. Earl sat down at my kitchen table, the same spot where we'd planned operations in the Gulf 25 years ago. Question is, you really want to burn this bridge? I thought about Danny Walsh, about that press guard that should have been inspected. Thought about Jimmy losing 40% of his pension because corporate needed to hit their numbers. Thought about Nancy's kids and college tuition and safety reports that wouldn't get written because there'd be nobody left to write them. Bridge was already burned when they decided 30 years of experience was worth less than a consultant's spreadsheet. Monday morning, I got to work at 6:30 a.m., same as always. Checked the equipment logs, reviewed the weekend reports. Line 2's conveyor motor was showing elevated vibration readings. Without Jimmy around to monitor it, that bearing was going to fail within the week. I made a note in my log knowing nobody would read it. The union meeting was in the break room. 15 experienced workers gathered around folding tables with coffee that had been sitting too long. Earl stood at the front with a clipboard, looking more serious than I'd seen him since our deployment days. Everybody here knows what's happening today, Earl said. Stevens expects Brock to take on the work of 3 people, maintain the same production levels, keep us all safe with half the crew we had last week. Heeds nodded around the room. These weren't young hotshots looking to make names for themselves. These were craftsmen, people who'd spent decades learning their trades, building families contributing to their community. Steelmont Industries has openings for everyone getting cut, I said. Same type of work, better pay, full benefits, union protection. What about the people staying behind? Asked Maria Santos from Assembly. What happens to them when this place falls apart? That's management's decision to make, Earl said. We tried to warn them about the consequences. They chose not to listen. At exactly 8 a.m., I walked into Stevens' office with 2 envelopes. He was already on his phone, gesturing with his free hand while he talked about cost savings and operational efficiency to someone who probably had the same MBA he did. Transition plan, I said, dropping the first envelope on his desk. He held up that finger again like I should wait while he finished explaining to someone how easy it was going to be to maintain production with a skeleton crew. When he hung up, he tore open the envelope and started reading. I watched his face change as he got through the first page. Then the second. By the third page, he was looking at me like I'd just explained why water flows uphill. This says it would require hiring 2 additional supervisors and extending the transition period to 6 months. That's my professional assessment. You asked me to figure out how to make this work safely. That's how his face was getting red, the way it did when reality interfered with his projections. The whole point is cost reduction, not expanding payroll. The point should be maintaining safe operations. But if cost reduction is the priority, then you need to understand what you're actually cutting. That's when I handed him the second envelope. Unlike the first one, this one had Pete Morrison, plant manager, Steelmont Industries typed neatly on the front. What's this supposed to be? Open it. He did. Inside was a letter of recommendation I'd written for myself, along with letters I'd written for Jimmy, Roy, Nancy, and 12 other experienced workers, all headed to Steelmont Industries, all starting that afternoon. Stevens stared at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. You can't just abandon your responsibilities. I'm not abandoning anything. I'm protecting my people. There's a difference. I'll sue all of you. Non-compete agreements, corporate espionage, breach of contract. I pulled my resignation letter from my pocket and placed it on top of the other papers. Go ahead. Explain to corporate why your entire experienced crew walked out in one day. Explain to the insurance company why you're filing claims when the equipment starts breaking down. Explain to GM why their parts are going to be late when line 2's bearing fails and you don't have anyone who knows how to fix it. I headed for the door, then turned back. And Stevens, that safety inspection OSHA's got scheduled for next month? Good luck with that. The walk across the factory floor took longer than usual. Word had already spread through the morning shift. People were watching from their workstations, some with relief that it wasn't them, others with the understanding that their jobs just got a lot harder. By the time I reached the main entrance, Jimmy was there with his toolbox. Then Roy, then Nancy. One by one, the experienced crew was gathering. 15 skilled workers representing over 250 years of combined knowledge about how to run that plant safely and efficiently. Earl was waiting by the parking lot with his union paperwork and a grim smile. Steelmont confirmed. They're expecting all of us this afternoon for orientation. We drove out together in a convoy of pickup trucks and older sedans. Behind us, Oakwood Manufacturing was left with expensive equipment and nobody who really knew how to maintain it properly. The transition to Steelmont went smoother than I'd expected. Pete Morrison kept his word about the positions, the pay, the benefits. More importantly, he listened when we explained how things worked, why certain procedures existed, what shortcuts would cause problems down the line. Within 3 months, our new crew was running more efficiently than Oakwood ever had, not because we worked faster, but because we worked smarter. When you respect experience, when you invest in proper training and maintenance, when you don't cut corners on safety, productivity takes care of itself. The aftermath at Oakwood wasn't pretty. Within 2 weeks, they had 3 equipment failures. Line 2's bearing seized up exactly when I predicted it would. A batch of parts failed inspection because the replacement quality tech didn't know about the temperature compensation needed for the measurement gauges. The OSHA inspection found 14 safety violations. Stevens tried to blame it on sabotage by the departing workers, but investigators found maintenance logs showing problems that had been ignored for weeks. Hard to claim sabotage when your own paperwork proves negligence. 6 months later, Oakwood was sold again. Stevens had moved on to optimize some other facility. The new owners brought in a management team that actually understood manufacturing, but by then it was too late. They'd lost their customer contracts, their reputation, and their experienced workforce. Jimmy Torres became our lead maintenance supervisor at Steelmont, overseeing a team of 5 technicians who actually listened when he explained how to prevent problems instead of just fixing them after they happened. His pension was fully vested within 2 years, instead of the 20 Oakwood had demanded. Roy Palmer set up our quality control department from scratch, implementing procedures that caught defects before they became customer complaints. Nancy Brooks created a safety program that became the model for other plants in the company. As for me, Pete Morrison promoted me to operations manager within 18 months. Not because I played politics or impressed anyone with spreadsheets, but because I understood that manufacturing is about people, not just processes. Last year, I ran into Stevens at an industry conference in Chicago. He was working for yet another consulting firm, still convinced that efficiency meant doing more with fewer people. He saw me across the exhibition hall but didn't come over, probably for the best. Some conversations aren't worth having. The equipment suppliers know the difference now. When they need references for their machinery, they call Steelmont, not Oakwood. When young engineers want to learn how manufacturing really works, they do their internships with us. When other plants have problems they can't solve, they send their people to learn from our crew. 3 years later, we're running at 99.2% efficiency with 0 lost time accidents. Our customer satisfaction ratings are the highest in the company's history, not because we're working harder, but because we're working the way manufacturing is supposed to work when you respect the knowledge that comes from experience. The young supervisors coming up understand it. They know that real efficiency isn't about cutting costs, it's about building systems that work reliably over time. They listen to the experienced workers, learn from their mistakes, ask questions instead of making assumptions. Sometimes the smartest business decision you can make is walking away from a situation designed to fail, not because you're giving up, but because you know your worth and you're willing to find people who recognize it. If you've stayed with me this long, thank you. This story matters because it's not just about one plant or one group of workers. It's about what happens when you treat experience as an expense instead of an asset. Maybe you're dealing with something similar in your own workplace. Maybe you're wondering if it's worth fighting for principles when it would be easier to just keep your head down. Maybe you're questioning whether your years of experience really matter in a world that seems to value cost-cutting over craftsmanship. Here's what I learned. Your experience matters, the knowledge you've built over decades of doing your job. Understanding not just what works, but why it works. That's not something they can replace with consultants and spreadsheets. When you know your worth, when you're willing to stand up for what's right, when you choose to work with people who respect what you bring to the table, that's when real success happens. Don't let anyone convince you that loyalty means accepting disrespect. Sometimes the most loyal thing you can do is show them what they're losing.